inventory stored in your warehouse, from theft, being misplaced, just anything, and also minimizing the cost of filling orders. This is vital. This is important. This is something that you need to achieve. So today, we're going to discuss getting your supply house in order. Now, I have a lot to cover in the next hour or so, and I want to leave some time for questions. So we're going to delve right into it. And I know that Jeannie will have this presentation available for you, so you don't have to take a lot of notes. Just start taking notes on the things that you want to do within your own organization. One of the first things that we need to accomplish in achieving our goal of great inventory control is to make sure that every one of your employees knows the cost of bad inventory management. They have to know that inventory is valuable. You might say, that's ridiculous. Everyone knows that inventory is valuable, but we've seen a disconnect between the material in your warehouse, or how people view the material in your warehouse, and how they view money. They don't realize that money and inventory is really the same thing. You just can't take inventory down to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread. Their paychecks result from the sale of inventory. They have to realize that, and if inventory is lost, stolen, or destroyed, it must be paid for with net profits. Okay? Now, in our quest, management must lead by example. You have to treat inventory well so that all of your employees will also treat inventory well. One of the things that I always do with our clients is show them this illustration, how losses must be paid for with net profit dollars. We take the value of lost material. Okay? Now, what is lost material? We're actually going to cover that in an upcoming slide, but it's anything that you buy that cannot be sold or used to sell other products or services. We take the value of that lost material, divide it by your gross margin, gross profit percentage. This equals the sales you need to generate to make up for the loss. Why do I say that? Because oftentimes, if I go up to someone and say, we've lost $2,500 worth of material, what's the company out? They'll say, well, you just said it, we're out $25. That's wrong. You're out the effort necessary to generate $2,500 of profit. Now, if you have a 20% gross margin, this means that it takes $2,000 in additional sales to make up for a $400 material loss. $2,000 is a lot bigger, a lot more meaningful than $400. And as I say in the second bullet point here, if you lose $400 per week, your organization would have to generate $104,000 in additional sales every year just to break even. And this isn't even considering the other costs that you incur through bad inventory control. Additional purchasing expense because you have to order material, fighting fires, doing it on an emergency basis. How often has something gotten lost in your facility and you had to reorder the product instead because you couldn't find it? Okay? The additional warehouse expense, looking for that missing material in your warehouse, processing additional stock receipts. This adds to your labor cost in the warehouse. People are not being productive. They're busy, but they're not being productive, earning you profits. Also, the very hard to measure, but they are true costs associated with not having material available to meet your customers' needs. How costly is it when you disappoint a customer? Well, it can be very costly when that customer starts going down the road and buying material from your competitor. I suggest you put, oops, I got ahead of myself. I was going to go back and discuss in more detail what is lost material. Lost material just isn't something that's missing in your warehouse. It isn't something that was just pilfered or stolen. It's anything that you buy that can't be sold to a customer or used to sell another product or service. Keep this in mind. It might be broken or damaged. It might be obsolete. Okay? How many times have people bought more of a special order product than a customer will buy? You have a non-stock, a special order item. The customer wants 4. You have to buy 12. Those other 8 are thrown into the warehouse. They're what we call orphan inventory. They're not going to have a home. That is lost material, even though it's physically still in your warehouse, because chances are you're never going to sell it or use it to sell another product or service. I suggest strongly you put a billboard up in each one of your warehouses, letting everyone know how much material was missing last week, how much material was damaged, the total. And as I said, we can divide that total by your gross profit percentage, gross margin percentage, to come up with the needed sales to make up for the loss. If someone says, well, why aren't we getting that bonus? Why aren't we getting a raise? Why are we having a reduction of benefits? You can point to that billboard and say, if we can reduce that, we have more money available to pay you. Now, I like to hold warehouse workers responsible for the care of inventory. They are our inventory caretakers. They're very important people. But oftentimes, they have an impossible job because anyone can get out to that warehouse and take material. I want you to protect yourself against theft by limiting access to your warehouse. Okay. How many times have you gone out to a warehouse and seen outsiders, people who don't work for your company, out to your warehouse wandering around? I was at a customer site yesterday in San Diego. Okay? I wandered around their warehouse. No one challenged me to say, can I help you? What are you doing here? Okay? Outsiders shouldn't be with your inventory in your warehouse. The same thing goes for service people, people who do business with your company but have no reason to be near the inventory. The electricians, plumbers, UPS drivers, what have you. If there's a reason they should be near the inventory, they should be monitored. Customers, if you have retail locations where customers help themselves filling orders, that's fine. And we can give you advice on how to set up a retail area to minimize the chance of pilferage and theft. But if you don't have a retail area, there is no reason why customers should be in your warehouse near your valuable material. Okay? We don't want to give them the temptation to steal from you, especially if you have service people like electricians going out to an electrical supply house. It is like children in a candy store. Okay? Your salespeople and technicians are your employees, but do they really need to be near your inventory? Chances are no. Chances are they may abuse inventory by taking samples or parts out of stock and not properly recording them. Okay, if you don't properly record stock disbursements, you don't know when to reorder a product. Okay, you are forced to overstock to maintain your desired level of customer service. To achieve effective inventory management, we have to be sure that the numbers in your computer system always agree with what is physically out in that warehouse, which is why I want to be sure that all material movement is properly recorded. Document procedures and paperwork for every type of material movement. Okay? Anytime material moves in or out of your warehouse, or from bin to bin in your warehouse. It should be following a procedure that you've laid out. I want you to discontinue what I call in that second bullet point sloppy procedures. The no paperwork exchange, substituting products without properly recording what was substituted. That's sloppy. That's going to lead to bad inventory information in your computer system. Okay? Sometimes you do have to allow salespeople to take samples out to customers. Set up a sample account where you record the samples taken out to customers. If you expect them back, always look at the outstanding orders. Go to the salespeople and say, when is the material coming back? And if it doesn't come back, we may have to issue you an invoice for that material. It should be an ironclad rule that no material ever leaves your warehouse without paperwork. Now, a few slides back, I said that management must lead this effort. Management must lead this effort. I want to emphasize that because some of the biggest abusers I have seen of inventory are the owners and managers of companies. They will go out to the warehouse, take a piece off the shelf, and not record what they're taking. Or, I saw this a few weeks ago, an owner of a chain of hardware stores went out to one of his stores. He needed to make a repair to his house that Saturday morning. He took a screwdriver and a couple of other fittings off the shelf and just walked out the store with them. What message is that sending to the rest of his employees? Well, the boss takes material without recording it. Why can't I? They don't think they're stealing. They think it is sort of like a fringe benefit of working for the firm. This has to stop. If you own a company and you need something in the warehouse, buy it from yourself. Make a big show of showing everyone that you are taking money out of your pocket or slapping that plastic down and buying it. This is going to send a wonderful message to your employees. As I said before, all material movement needs to be recorded. You need documented procedures for every type of transaction. If material can get in or leave your warehouse, there should be an approved way for it to go forward or come back. Okay? Receipts, unexpected receipts. What is your procedure when material arrives without a purchase order? You might say, oh, well, that depends on the circumstances. Document each circumstance. Make sure that people, especially, I want to go down to the bottom of that right-hand column, you see scrap. Make sure that there's a way to record scrap when something cannot be sold or used. There are two types of scrap, what we call planned scrap and unplanned scrap. Planned scrap is something that you count on. Maybe you're cutting specific shapes out of a sheet of material. You cut the shape, you know you're going to waste the rest of the material. It's going to be thrown in a scrap pile, maybe even thrown away. Hopefully your bill of materials includes the entire sheet. But unplanned scrap, this is when someone breaks something. Someone cuts that sheet of material incorrectly and has to go get another sheet to get the correct shape. Okay? You need a way for people to record unplanned scrap. Okay? And you need to take the approach that I had with my sons when they were very little. And you may have done this with your children. You always say, I don't mind if you break something. I don't mind if you actually create scrap, as long as you record it, as long as you tell me about it. Two other procedures on this list I want to highlight are positive and negative adjustments. You see those on the right-hand side just above the scrap. Positive adjustments is when you go out to the warehouse and you find more than you expect. There is a larger quantity than is in your computer system. You might say, oh, that's great, I have more than I thought I would have. That's wonderful. No, it isn't. because in all probability you have an offsetting discrepancy on another item. Someone took one item rather than this item, or someone didn't process a stock receipt, an incoming shipment of the product. Either way, you have a situation that you need to correct to avoid inaccurate inventory records and a possible stock out. I want to also mention negative adjustments. This is when the computer says you have more than is out in the warehouse. I said a second ago that positive adjustments need to be researched. Negative adjustments need management approval. I hope you don't have a pet store where inventory can literally walk out the door on its own. If inventory is missing, it's missing for a reason. Management should really research, really investigate every negative adjustment. We want to prevent them in the future. You want to document all of your policies and procedures. But there will always be occasions when someone will have an excuse as to why they can't record a material disbursement in the computer system. Okay, the computer system was down. There was a power shortage. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I don't want to crank up the computer system to record a transaction. Everyone's going to have at least once a year some reason why they can't record a material disbursement in the computer system. So as a stop-gap measure, I want you to go down to the office supply store, get some clipboards, preferably bright red clipboards, and I want one posted by every exit. If, for any reason, any employee, from the owner to the guy who sweeps the floors, has to remove material from the warehouse, and they can't, for whatever reason, record it in your computer system, it gets listed on the clipboard. Okay, I'll have an employee take the clipboard entries and record them as transactions in my computer system once, maybe twice a day. But any material leaving your warehouse has to be recorded in your computer system or on a clipboard. Let me repeat that one more time. Any material leaving your facility has to be recorded in your computer system or on the clipboard. If it isn't, it is considered theft. And we get rid of people who steal from us. Okay. You don't want thieves working for you. Now, the most important job in your warehouse for maintaining accurate inventory is receiving and stocking. If material is put away correctly, you are in good shape. The most experienced people who work for you, the most experienced people in your warehouse, the most knowledgeable people in your warehouse should be in receiving. They know what you ordered. They can tell if what you ordered is what you received. They know how to put material away to facilitate the filling of orders. The National Association of Wholesale Distributors did a study a few years back that on average every put-away error results in 10 additional errors. I've seen many times where people would start new warehouse employees on their receiving dock. They put material away incorrectly in the wrong spot and forget where they put it. To find that material, we had to conduct a treasure hunt. This is bad. You want material put away correctly, and you want to be sure that what you received is what you ordered. Therefore, the most experienced people should be in receiving, in stocking, or put away. Okay? New employees should be picking orders. It is easy to check their work. It's easy to see what they just picked and see if it was what they should have just picked. Have new employees I get so excited about this. Have new employees pick orders under careful supervision. Okay? A few other notes. I want a no-fault area in every one of your warehouses. Only skilled people should be putting away stock. If I have something in my hand that needs to be put back in stock, I want to put it on what we call a no-fault shelf. It's sort of like if you go down to your local public library. There are probably big signs all over the place saying, do not reshelve books. Don't put books back on the shelves. Put them on this cart or put them on this, what we call a no-fault shelf, so that a knowledgeable employee will put it back, so that we are assured that it gets put back in the right location. Now, that no-fault area is not going to look like, well, what some of you may have in your return goods area. You know, cobwebs, a pile of dust. It looks like the set of the Addams Family movie. No, that no-fault shelf, that no-fault area gets cleaned out at least once a week. And oftentimes we'll have a meeting of all warehouse personnel to review what's in the no-fault area to enhance their education of product placement in the warehouse. Now, another note on employees in warehouses. I have seen many times where the most technically competent person in a warehouse, the person who knows your inventory best, is not put in receiving and stocking. They're made the warehouse manager. Wrong. Okay, just because someone has good technical skills doesn't mean they are an effective leader. And your warehouse manager must, I say should be a leader here. I'm going to tell you right now they must be a leader. Okay? Your technically competent people may not be leaders. They may take the attitude of, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. And these technically competent people placed in management positions work hard. They kill themselves while everybody else walks away, doesn't walk away, but usually just stands there watching these people work hard. Your warehouse manager should understand that his or her primary responsibilities are to supervise, instruct, and verify that material is handled properly. You want a good warehouse manager? Hire a retired Marine drill instructor. Those men and women take no prisoners. They do a great job in ensuring that you have effective inventory management. Okay, now let's talk a bit about actually stocking products in your warehouse. There are three types of bins or storage units in a warehouse. Today I'm going to use bin locations in storage units, all more or less interchangeably. We have to look at three basic decisions you have to make for each of your product. Okay, what type of bin, what type of storage unit should it be stocked in? How much space should it take up in that storage unit? And where should the location of that space in that storage unit be in your warehouse? Where should that material be located in the warehouse? How much space is it going to take up? And what type of storage unit is best? Okay? I hope you have bin locations assigned in your warehouse. A bin location is any designated storage location in your warehouse. Could be shelves, pallet rack, floor areas. Okay, I want you to label every spot in your warehouse where you could store material. It might be a floor area, aisle, shelving unit, shelves, pallet racks, carousels, whatever it is. We like to have as flexible a material storage system as possible. that allows products to be stored in such a way to minimize the cost of filling orders. Okay, I want the bin location numbering system to be simple and meaningful. How do I know it is a good bin numbering system? A new employee will be productive on his or her second day of employment. Here I have an item. Item number A, 121-002, and that's stocked in bin A-03-03-04. The A in my warehouse stands for Section A. Aisle 3 is that second 03. The third shelving unit, you can see the 03 there. Fourth shelf from the bottom, that's the 04. Make good signs, easy to read signs in your warehouse. Just take a friend out to your warehouse, see if they can find a particular product in a bin location. If they can without too much instruction, you know you have a very good, very simple bin location system. Now, as I said, we have various types of bins, various types of storage locations. We have fixed locations or fixed bins, random locations, and holding bins. A good warehouse will have all three types. Fixed locations you are very familiar with. A fixed location is a space reserved for a specific product. The item is out of stock. That space remains empty, awaiting the replenishment shipment. Usually you may be pulling orders, what we call the pick face. You're picking orders from the pick face bins, and that is often made up of your fixed locations. A product can have multiple fixed location spots reserved for that product in a warehouse. Maybe you have some reserved near the will call counter, another space reserved in the back of the warehouse for the orders which you'll deliver on your trucks. Fixed locations, as I said, are designed to hold a specific product. If that product is out of stock, that space remains empty. If you were to only have fixed locations in your warehouse, you would have to size each fixed bin for the maximum quantity you might have on hand at any one time, which is why we will also use random locations in a warehouse. A random location can hold any product if that space is empty. So if I get 3 pallets in of number A100, I don't put them necessarily all together. I'll put them in any empty random location. If you're filling orders from random locations, you not only need to know how much material is in your warehouse, but you need to know the quantity contained in each of your random locations so that you can direct your picking personnel to pick from the correct bin. Now, you might say, well, we don't have random locations. We only have fixed bins in our warehouse. And I would argue that you might be incorrect. You might store anything that won't fit in the fixed location above the shelves, on the top of the shelves, or in your top pallet positions. That is random storage for surplus or bulk stock. If you're storing up above, and you might have seen in your warehouse people searching for material that they know was stored up above on top of shelves in that random area. To avoid having people waste time searching the tops of shelves, gazing up towards your ceiling as though they have a nosebleed, I suggest strongly you use erasable magnetic labels to designate the location of surplus stock in those random locations on the top of your shelves. You put that erasable magnetic label at the primary location, at the fixed bin. It points to where that surplus stock is located. This makes it very easy to find that surplus stock. Holding bins are a third type of bin location. They're used to store material that you own, but it is not currently available for customers. It might be returned goods. It might be in need of repair or rework. It might be something that you have to repackage before you can sell or use it. Now, those are three types of bins: fixed, random, holding bins. How those bins are arranged in a warehouse, how material is arranged, is very interesting. Most people use what's called a traditional warehouse layout. Similar products are stored right next to each other, maybe even in vendor part number sequence. A traditional warehouse layout is very appropriate in a retail environment where customers fill their own orders. You want all the Campbell soup at your supermarket located in the same aisle. You want all of the cereal in the same place in the supermarket. It makes it very easy to find the material you're looking for. Okay? Also, if technicians have to find certain parts and they don't have a picking document or a wireless gun that shows them where the material is located, a traditional warehouse layout is very appropriate. But in any other case, we want to get away from a traditional warehouse layout. If you can utilize pick tickets, picking documents, telling your order pickers where material is located in a warehouse, or if they are using radio frequency units in a paperless warehouse environment that point them to the next place to pull material from, a traditional warehouse layout is not appropriate. It's going to waste a lot of time because every one of your product lines probably has three things: fast-moving products, slower-moving products, and dead products. I don't want people to have to pass through the slow-moving and dead products to get to a fast-moving product in another product line that's located farther away in the warehouse. What we do is organize warehouses to minimize the cost of filling an order. And oftentimes, this means taking those products that are picked most often, or those products that are picked together, and arranging your warehouse so that those products that are picked most often are located closest to your shipping and staging area. Okay? You can see that in the A-ranked item area. Okay? Oftentimes, 10 to 13% of your products are responsible for 80% of your activity. As we learned in a few webinars ago, 95% of your activity is probably generated by 50% of your products. If we have those in the most accessible locations, your pickers are going to be much more productive. The slower the moving product is located further and further back in your warehouse. Now, we're not just talking about product location as the crow flies from your shipping and receiving area. Fast-moving products on a shelf should be in what we call the primary location, from your eyes down to your knees. Okay, a fair location is your knees down to the floor. Maybe your moderate moving products will be there. The poorest location is above your head. I am not saying don't use shelves that are above people's heads, but only put very slow-moving products there, or possibly bulk storage. If you're looking at pallet racks, in most cases, the lower the better. You want to have people picking from the floor level of a pallet rack and have them pick less and less as you go up through the warehouse, or up towards the ceiling, I should say, in the warehouse. Okay. Now, you might have a large quantity of an A-ranked item, okay, more than you can store in what we call the gold zone, your most accessible bin locations. So we want to size the space that we have for an A item, a fast-moving product, in its primary picking fixed bin. Its primary fixed bin to hold maybe a 1 to 2 week supply. Your B items. Now remember, those are going to be located a bit further back from your shipping and receiving area. Let's get back there. They're located a little further back. We might have a 4 to 8 week supply of those products in the primary location. The balance would be in bulk stock, our surplus area, which is usually the far back of the warehouse. Your C items, D items, your slower moving items, you may size the primary location to hold the entire quantity of that product that you would have on hand at one time. Why? Because you're not going to have a lot of those products in inventory, and you're already looking at areas that are further and further back in the warehouse. We do everything that we can to facilitate order fulfillment in the warehouse. I want you to take all of your dead stock, move it to the farthest back corner of the warehouse until it's liquidated, far away from the shipping, staging, and receiving area. It shouldn't be taking up valuable real estate, because if you look at it, all a warehouse is real estate. And as we all know, the three most important things in real estate are location, location, and location. Not only do I want you to use bin locations, but I want you also to use something that we call a sort sequence numbers. Bin locations in a warehouse identify a specific spot in the warehouse where material is stored. If you imagine a map, a bin location would be a city like Los Angeles or San Diego or Bakersfield, what have you. There are specific spots where things are stored in a warehouse. That's a bin location. A sort sequence number guides people through the warehouse to fill orders. These are sort of like the roads connecting the cities. Now, if you were designing the roads in your warehouse, the paths to pull orders, if you think about it, you can have people filling orders productively in direct routes or inefficiently taking indirect routes. You want to lead people through your warehouse in the most efficient way possible to pick orders. So in this case, you see row A down at the bottom goes from right to left. Row B, even though the bins are in the same sequence as they were in row A, we will fill orders in reverse. We will turn the corner at the end of row A and fill row B backwards. We're not backtracking. We're not doing something we call deadheading in the warehouse. We're being as efficient as possible as we fill orders. Now, warehouse walls are not elastic. I want you to make sure that you have enough room in your warehouse to store the products that you want to stock. Now, we've already discussed how much room to allow for the primary location for an item. If you remember a few slides back, I'll go back there. We said an A item, a 1 to 2 week supply, a B item, a 4 to 8 week supply, etc. Well, if you know the cubic volume of a product, you can determine how much space you need for each item. Okay. Then we have to know how much room we need for surplus or bulk storage. This is going to be the balance of the stock that you might have for an item. We take the maximum quantity of every item you've committed to stock, subtract what we call the pick face quantity, that quantity that we just said was going to be in the primary bin, and the balance is going to be the maximum that we might need in surplus and bulk storage. Now, we won't have every item up to capacity at one time, so we'll take the maximum minus pick face quantity, that large amount in bulk storage, and divide the result by 2, multiply it by the cubic volume of the package, and we'll know how much space we need to store products in our warehouse. If you have space left over, notify your buyers that this much space is available for their special buys. If you have space available after you've allocated adequate special buy space, create a dead stock area if you really want to hang on to that dead inventory, if it makes management feel good to know that it's there just in case somebody in the most remote possibility might want it someday. If you don't have space after you have slotted, that's our term, we call it slotting a warehouse, planning the space necessary for each item, allocating space for those special buys. If you don't have space left over, liquidate your dead inventory. Get it out of your warehouse. Okay? Some other ideas that will improve your warehouse operations. Minimize the cost of filling orders. Cross-stock whenever possible. What is cross-stocking? That is the process of filling orders while the material is still on your receiving dock. You want to be sure that quantities of on-stock receipts tagged to specific orders, reserved for specific outgoing customer orders, reserved for existing transfers, existing work orders, are filled while that material is on the receiving dock. It's very efficient. Not only that, but it ensures that the right customer gets the products. Everyone should have what we call a backorder availability report. Shows what outstanding orders can be filled from the stock receipts that just came into your warehouse. Why put it away once and then handle the material again while you fill an order? This minimizes material handling. Okay? We are bypassing the warehouse, taking this material from receiving directly to that staging and shipping area in your facility. Okay? Many people still pull one order at a time in their warehouse. They send a picker out to the warehouse and they're pulling one order at a time. If you have a lot of 1 and 2 line orders, we suggest you implement what's called wave picking. Under wave picking, someone will go out to the warehouse and pull multiple orders. They approach a bin. They need some of that product that's stored in that bin, not only for one order, but for another order, maybe 3 orders. They fill all 3 orders at the same time. Now, this is appropriate only for 1 or 2 line orders. If you have a lot of 1 or 2 line orders that your people are filling, it requires that orders be assembled during the packing process and staging process. Okay, and that packing slips be printed in addition to pick tickets. Those pick tickets list the total quantity to be picked. Those packing slips break it out for each individual customer order. But it can improve the efficiency of your warehouse, as can zone picking. Zone picking is a little different from wave picking. Zone picking is used, especially when you have large warehouses. Okay? People are assigned to specific areas of the warehouse, and they fill orders for products in their specific area. Okay? A customer order, as I say here, might have multiple lines. Those orders are separated based on the location or the zone in the warehouse. Okay. Everybody fills the orders in their zone. Material is sent, usually by conveyor, to the shipping and staging area, where those orders are reassembled during the packing process. Packing slips are printed in addition to pick tickets again. This works very, very, very well. We have seen more and more people be very productive using barcodes. Barcodes, I say here, can improve productivity and accuracy. They most often do. One-dimensional barcodes are what you are most familiar with. They are typically used to identify products. You can put them on paperwork. You can put them on bins. You can put them on individual items. Okay? You verify that you're picking the right product. Okay? Very important. Two-dimensional barcodes don't identify specific products. They identify a transaction. This particular two-dimensional barcode that you see on slide 37 looks sort of like a fingerprint. That, in fact, is a packing slip of a shipment. When this shipment came into one of my customers' warehouse, they just scanned that whole barcode, and the stock receipt was instantaneously posted in their computer systems. You may have also heard a lot recently about radio frequency identification, RFID barcodes. These are different than RF barcodes. RF barcodes, or radio frequency wireless barcodes, all that means is that the barcode reader, or the gun as we typically call it, is in constant communication, constant wireless communication, I should say, with the computer system. RFID is a technology where the barcode labels themselves contain an embedded integrated circuit. The labels on this integrated circuit contain all the information of a traditional barcode, but you don't need what we call a direct line of sight. All that has to happen is that the barcode has to pass within a certain distance, usually 3 to 30 feet, of the reader, and the barcode is read. Okay? This is an emerging technology. It's still expensive, and the accuracy isn't as good as it will be in a few years. RFID is appropriate in very specific places right now, but it's not universally implemented right now. Now, the benefits of barcoding: increased productivity, as I said, reduction of misplaced inventory. Perpetual inventory is updated instantly. What do I mean by that? Your computer system knows the second something is taken out of a bin, okay, can eliminate the task of checking orders, verifying orders for accuracy, because the barcoding system is doing that for you. And we can eliminate the need for an annual physical, what's called continual cycle counting, because barcode readers can be programmed to ask people picking orders or putting away stock how many are in the location after the transaction in the queue or just completing has been, in fact, completed. How many are left in the bin after you fill this order? Now, I mentioned physical inventories a second ago. I don't like physical inventories. Physical inventories, in most cases, are a total waste of time and money. I was on the phone with a company in New York State just before this webinar. They want to do a physical inventory. Okay? There are problems with a physical inventory. We only have a certain amount of time that we're shut down to count everything. Okay? We want to get a good count in that time period. As a result, we probably have some people counting who aren't qualified to count, who don't have a vested interest in the count. But most importantly, if you only count your inventory once a year, how long does that inventory remain accurate? Probably just until you start filling transactions again. You count inventory for two reasons: to make sure that the quantities in your computer system agree with what's in the warehouse. Absolutely. But you also count your inventory to improve your business processes, which is why I want you to go to cycle counting. Counting part of your inventory every day. Cycle counts usually result in more accurate computer stock levels than physical inventories. Absolutely. Because without accurate stock levels, a effective inventory management is impossible. Now, I could spend an hour just going through cycle counting, and maybe we'll continue cycle counting in our next session. But my goal is for all of you to be no more than 2 to 3% off, meaning the quantities in your computer system are absolutely no more than 2 to 3% off what's on the shelf. Now there are 5 different methods of cycle counting. You see them here: geographic count, rank-based counts, random counts, load balance counts, exception counts. This sounds complicated. It doesn't have to be. I want you to adopt what we call a rank-based count system. All this means is that bins are items with a large number of hits. A hit is a request for the product. Anytime I go to the bin to fill an order is a hit. The more times I go to the bin to fill an order, the more often I want to cycle count that item. For 2 reasons. Because, as I say in the second bullet here, every time someone goes to the bin to pull an order is another opportunity for an error to occur. Okay? These are also going to be those products that your customers request most often, and you want to be sure you have them. Okay? Slower moving products usually have greater accuracy than fast moving products and don't have to be counted as frequently. I want you to count your A items, those items responsible for the majority of your hits, 6 times a year. Okay? Count them 6 times a year, once every 8 weeks. Count everything else once a year. If you have time left over, count your B items twice a year. Okay? You will find that you have very, very, very accurate inventories. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you should use random counts. Randomly select items to count. Well, if you do that, keep in mind, you'll be selecting a lot of slow-moving items that probably have very accurate inventories. The only time I recommend people use random counts is when, as I say in the 3rd bullet here, the counters should not know in advance what's going to be counting. If we suspect employee theft, we are going to have random counts. Okay. A combination, a suggested method I use, is not only looking at your rank-based counts, but exception counts every day as well. An exception is when you have an obvious accuracy problem. Unexpected stockouts. The computer said the computer said you had some, but when you looked in the bin, it wasn't there. Or a negative on-hand quantity. You have more than you thought you had. The computer says you're out of it, but you keep shipping it. I will also add to the rank-based counts on any day products that I have had continual problems with in counting, problems that always seem to be off. I only have a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to jump ahead and just say that when you do have discrepancies that are in excess of, say, 5% or preferably eventually 2 to 3%, look at the discrepancies. Figure out a reason why those discrepancies occurred. Research them. Common reasons for your counts to be off. Transactions for the item have not been properly recorded. The wrong quantity was taken to fill an order. The wrong product was taken. The product was filled from a different bin location if you were maintaining quantities by bin location. The stock was put away incorrectly. Unit of measure misrepresentations, data entry errors. You might find damaged material. There are reasons behind every discrepancy. The more you research discrepancies, the easier it is to find commonality and to change your business procedures to avoid future discrepancies. Last suggestion I have for you. Reward people. If your inventory is accurate, if you get to the point where your cycle counting is very accurate within your predetermined goals, reward everyone who has access to inventory. In this way, everyone will have a vested interest in making sure your inventory is accurate. This applies to anybody who has access to inventory. And I want to see that small bonus. It can be very small, just large enough so they know whether or not they get it in their next paycheck, so that if they see someone mishandling inventory, they have a vested interest to correct them. Okay, our time is about up, but I just want you to take away 5 points. First of all, ensure that all employees realize the cost of bad inventory management. Secondly, make sure that all material movement is properly recorded. Organize your warehouse to minimize the cost of filling orders. Put the right person in the right position. Remember I said your warehouse manager has to be a leader? Your most technically competent person should be on your receiving dock. And finally, cycle count, cycle count, cycle count. Count your inventory every day, correct your procedures, and move forward. You will achieve our goal of effective inventory management. You'll meet or exceed your customers' expectations of product availability with the amount of each item that will maximize your net profits or minimize your costs. Oh, I'm out of breath. But if you have questions, please let me know. There's my phone number and email address. And you can sign up for our monthly newsletter at www.effectiveinventory.com. And with that, Jeannie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Wow, thank you very much, Jon. That was a lot of great information, and thank you once again for your fantastic presentation. I think we all enjoy your presentation. I'm sure our listeners are looking forward to our future webcasts as well. Let me go ahead and unmute all the phone lines so that our listeners will be able to ask their questions.